The last 24 hours of Adolf Hitler's life were chaotic and filled with despair. The once mighty dictator had fallen from grace, and his world was crumbling around him. During his final hours, Hitler was surrounded by his closest confidants, including his dog Blondie, his lover Eva Braun, and a handful of loyal friends. On the 28th of April, 1945, Hitler learned that his trusted ally, Benito Mussolini, had been executed by Italian partisans. This news was a devastating blow to Hitler, and it caused him to become even more erratic and unstable. The day before his death, Hitler married his longtime lover, Eva Braun. The couple had been together for several years but had kept their relationship a secret from the public. Hitler had always been wary of appearing vulnerable, and he feared that his enemies would use his personal life against him. However, as the war neared its end and defeat seemed inevitable, Hitler decided to marry Eva as a final act of defiance. The wedding ceremony was a small and somber affair, attended only by a handful of close friends and advisors. Hitler was dressed in his usual military uniform, while Eva wore a simple white dress. After the ceremony, the couple retired to their private quarters in the bunker. Despite his marriage to Eva, Hitler was increasingly isolated and desperate. He spent much of his time in his bunker, obsessively watching newsreels and issuing orders to his generals. He was convinced that victory was still possible, but his advisors knew that the situation was hopeless. The Allied forces were advancing on all fronts, and the German army was in disarray. In the midst of all this chaos, Hitler's beloved dog, Blondie, remained by his side. The German Shepherd had been a loyal companion to Hitler for several years, and the dictator was known to be particularly fond of her. However, in the final hours of his life, Hitler ordered his personal physician to administer a cyanide capsule to Blondie. The dog died instantly, and her body was reportedly buried in the bunker's garden. It's hard to know what Hitler's motivation was for ordering the death of his faithful companion, but it's possible that he didn't want to risk Blondie falling into the hands of the Soviets and being used for propaganda purposes. As the day wore on, the situation in Berlin grew increasingly dire. The Red Army was closing in, and the sound of gunfire and explosions could be heard all around the city. Hitler remained in his bunker, surrounded by his most loyal advisors and military commanders, as they discussed the best course of action. By late afternoon, it became clear that the end was near. The Red Army had broken through the German defenses and was rapidly advancing towards the city center. Hitler, who had always been a fervent believer in Nazi ideology, refused to surrender. Instead, he decided to end his life. At around 3:30 p.m. on the 30th of April, 1945, Hitler retreated to his private quarters with Eva Braun. There, he bid farewell to his staff and loyal followers, and then proceeded to commit suicide. He swallowed a cyanide pill and then shot himself in the head with a pistol. Eva Braun also took a cyanide pill and died alongside Hitler. Hitler's body was then taken to the surface and placed in a crater where it was doused with gasoline and set on fire. Hitler's death was announced to the world the next day, on the 1st of May, 1945.